Hey, good morning, CrossFit 43 North community. Today we're going to be talking about squatting and if it's harder for some people than others, specifically taller athletes. This question was brought to me by the dental hygienist yesterday while I was getting my teeth cleaned, and we got to talking about training and squatting. And as you've probably experienced when you're talking with someone or in the dentist chair, they're always asking you questions, and then they have their hands and the tools in your mouth, and you can't really answer. And then if you try to do like an actual more than one word answer to anything, it takes a long time, and you can't really have a conversation. So, hey, I'll just give this some thought and share my thinking on our Instagram Live this morning. So, if you're watching this not on Instagram Live, on Facebook or YouTube later, just know that this happens almost every Thursday. Try to make it happen on Thursday mornings, somewhere between 8:30 and 9. And our Instagram is at CrossFit 43 North. So if you're interested in watching this live, then cool, we'll do that. So is squatting harder for taller athletes? And the answer is maybe. So, and most likely yes, but maybe not in the way that you're thinking it would be harder. So because someone is taller, they generally have a longer or a broader range of motion. So that means that their start position is going to be higher than a shorter person's. Their hips are going to be higher, and then when they go down, their hips are going to be probably pretty close to the same depth as what a shorter person would, so that they have to actually move the load a larger distance. So in that, they're doing more work. So if they're doing more work, then it is technically harder because they're doing more work. But if we're talking about the actual perceived effort of squatting for a taller person, as opposed to a shorter person, that can be the case, but not necessarily always the case. And this depends on the length of their limbs. So we have a femur, and then we have our shins, the tibia and the fibula, bones in there that, like, depending on the length of those, that changes the levers that help us squat. So sometimes we have lengths of our limbs and that are mechanically advantageous to doing things, whether it be deadlifting or squatting or pressing. And sometimes we have lengths that are less mechanically advantageous. So it is a lot harder. So this comes from thinking about for squatting specifically. Our goal is to keep the load directly over our base of support. So if we have a barbell on our back or in a front squat, our base of support is the middle of our foot. Any deviation of the barbell forward or backward from the middle of the foot is going to make that lift harder. So you can imagine that if you have really long femurs and your butt's sticking way back here, and here's your femurs and your shin, torso, best I can do with my hands, that you're going to have to lean your torso forward quite a bit to keep the weight over the center of your foot. If you have a shorter femur, your torso is going to be able to stay up quite a bit more vertical, and which is going to make that squat a little bit easier because you don't have to bend over quite so forward and fold over like a taco. What can help taller athletes with this is really working on, depending on, again, this is with caveat, depends on the length of their legs and their femurs. That working specifically on ankle mobility, allowing that shin to come forward more, allows the hip to come forward more, which then allows for a more vertical torso. So that's a very oversimplified explanation of how it might be more difficult for taller athletes to squat. Yes, they are doing more work generally because they're taller, that range of motion is a little bit more, so they're going to be doing more work. but often they have, because they have longer legs, that their mechanics are a little less advantageous for squatting. But not necessarily, because some people have maybe not as long of femurs. They have shorter femurs and their legs are not that much longer than a shorter person, but they have a taller torso. So that is a possibility as well. And that person would have a little more advantageous mechanics or levers for squatting. So I guess the answer is maybe, but it depends on the person. But everyone can squat, and depending on range of motion and mobility stuff, can get full range of motion and have a pretty upright torso. But you may have to spend more time working on ankle range of motion or ankle mobility or hip mobility, and being able to do that, it be in the best optimal positions. So I think that's going to be it for today. It was a short question. An interesting thing, if you you can look on YouTube or wherever, just watching people squat, find people of different heights and watch them squat, and they will not have the same positions. It doesn't mean that one person's squatting better than the other, or one's squatting easier than the other, or the one's like wrong or right. Because we are shaped differently, our squats look a little bit different. But there are some like key fundamental things that we want to see for a good squat, but that is for another video, and I'll talk about that another time. Anyway, as always, if you want to send me a question, you can send a direct message here on Instagram and I will answer it, or you can email me at Clayton, CLAYTON, at CrossFit43north.com, and submit your question there, and I will be sure to answer it live on Thursday mornings. All right, see you guys later.